Hi guys, Vardha here. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to create this quick and easy card using my Dancing Florals stamp set. What you see me do here is actually practice stamping, and I decided to keep this footage because in the real card, when I was filming the real card, my the technique I'm doing went out of focus for the camera. So I decided to keep this footage and show you the technique that we are going to do. um, I don't even want to call it a technique, it's not anything as fancy as that. But the idea is sometimes you have images which are not exactly what you want, so you can manipulate some of the other images to add on to it. Like in this example, I have this wheat image. I'm going to call it wheat. Officially, I'm going to call that wheat image, the one that I've already stamped. I wanted it to have some kind of like grass blades or leafy element to it. I didn't realize that when I was designing the stamp, but I have this other floral element in the same stamp set which has those leaves just like what I would like on my wheat. So what I'm doing here is I'm using the flexibility of that acrylic stamp to my advantage. I'm manipulating it. In the stamp set, you will see that the stalk of this flower is actually having a curve to it, but because this line is so delicate, the stamp itself is pretty flexible. I'm able to move it around, and I'm able to hold the shape by making sure it stays put on the acrylic block the way I want. So I made it stand up straight, the stalk, and I manipulated those leaf images to be in one angle or the other. What you saw, just what happened is I almost was tempted to do generational stamping, where I stamp once and then without re-inking I stamp to give it like a background effect, or like something that is in a far distance and little bit less crisp. But then I decided against it because the the final place for this particular stamping is going to be on a tag which is already ink blended with evening or morning kind of sunrise or sunset kind of colors. So on top of it, I don't know how the gray or the generational stamping will look, so I decided to give up on it. I might try it some other time, but this time I just decided to do the crisp stamping. And if you realize, what I have been doing is I've been stamping the leaves the way I want. Sometimes I stamp only one leaf, sometimes both, always making sure that the stalk remains straight so that I can align it with the wheat stalks. This is the tag which I had already prepared. I think it's a Tim Holtz tag, and those are the colors I have blended it with. In fact, when I was dropping my daughter and coming back, these were almost like the colors of the sky that we were seeing, and it kind of reminded me of that. So I just picked Concord and Ninth, kind of matching colors from that picture. If you saw my Instagram stories, you would have seen that video or picture while we were driving back. So I just took inspiration from that, picked up similar color hues from Concord and Ninth inks, and plain ink blended that tag that you see there. And now I'm doing what I did in my practice stamping. I am using a clear block to hold my image straight, and at times like this, when it is just slightly off, I'm going to come back with my Recollections black pen. I'll link to the actual one I'm using. So I'm just going to do that and fix it or arrange it so that it looks almost real, like the silhouettes don't look too off. And I'm going to continue doing what I did in my practice stamping. Manipulate the leaves one way or the other, sometimes stamp just one leaf, sometimes stamp both the leaves, always making sure that the stalk matches the stalk of the wheat. And I'm using the exact same ink. One word of caution: when you do something like this, make sure your background is completely dry. So I had made that tag and left it alone. I think I probably would have made it the previous day or something, and left it alone, and it was completely dry, because otherwise you will have to be careful about the ink, the black ink especially, going and mudding things up. Um, so yeah, continue with the same thing. The tag is completely dry. I'm making sure I'm stamping my one leaf, two leaves, manipulated leaves around, and just staying to the same silhouette style of this wheat. Okay, the next step, what I'm doing is I'm planning where my sentiments will go. For this particular one, I wanted to have two sentiments together. I was playing with it whether I wanted to have around the tag, make it on the side, and then finally I decided no, I'll just keep it plain and simple. I had prepared this card base also ahead of time. This card base is A2 size card, A2 size card, and the front of it was dry embossed with Alt Inu, I think organic linen 3D embossing folder. I think that's the name. I'll find out the actual name from the packaging and I will make sure I link to it. I want the sentiment to run off from the tag into the card. So I'm making sure I'm using Misty for this, and I will stamp it twice. Once I will stamp it like this, where I'm keeping the tag and the background, like the card and the tag both. Then I will remove, after I'm happy with this, I will remove the tag and I'll stamp it again. I like to do this because when you're stamping and there are layers of papers, then sometimes you will see a faint cut line between the first and the second, like the tag, between the tag and the paper, there will be a faint cut line. But on the card, if that sentiment is already stamped, then it's easy to just match it up, exactly line it up, and then there is no very thin gap. I don't know how to explain it, but maybe you want to try it. So, whenever I'm doing something like this, where part of a sentiment or part of an image runs from one level to the next level, so one paper and then the paper underneath it, I always stamp it twice. Even if the one below is going to be mostly covered, but still it helps keep the look continuous between the top layer and the bottom layer. So that's why I stamped it twice, and all now I'm doing is I am using scrapbook adhesive foam adhesive sheets, I think. I'm sorry, that also got outside the footage here, but all I'm doing is I'm adding that adhesive to the back of my tag, and I will attach it to the card by lining up the sentiment, and then add a bunch of gems, and we are done. That's the card. In less than 10 minutes, everything came together, including the blending. So I think that's it. Do give this idea a try, do give this stamp set a try, and let me know what you think. Thank you so much for dropping by. I really appreciate your support. Thank you. You have a great day. Bye.